We all fear getting stranded on the side of a lonely road. Maybe it's a flat tire, an overheated engine, or running out of gas. But for most of us, roadside troubles end with a tow truck or a helping stranger. Unfortunately, some stories of breakdowns spiral into something far darker, where isolation, vulnerability, and danger collide. These are the stories that remind us being stuck on the side of the road is more than just an inconvenience. It can be a nightmare. Today, we're diving into 3 true, terrifying cases of roadside breakdowns that went horrifyingly wrong.
A roadside breakdown is usually just an inconvenience. A flat tire, a dead battery, a waiting towel. But sometimes, being stranded leads to something far worse. These are 3 terrifying true stories where a simple car trouble turned into a living nightmare. The terror on Route 11, Pennsylvania, in the late fall of 1999. A couple driving through rural Pennsylvania found themselves in a nightmare they would never forget. Sarah and Tom were driving home from a weekend getaway when their car suddenly sputtered and died on Route 11, a stretch known for its dense woods and sparse cell service. The temperature was dropping fast, and dusk was settling in. Tom tried to restart the car multiple times but failed. With no phone signal and only a faint line of headlights in the distance, they decided to walk to the nearest gas station about 2 miles away. Before they left, Sarah locked the doors and left Tom behind to keep watch. As Sarah disappeared down the road, Tom noticed a pickup truck slowly pull over behind their car. The truck had no lights on, and the driver remained inside. Tom's unease grew, but the man eventually got out and approached. He introduced himself as a mechanic who happened to be driving by. Tom felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe the stranger could help them get back on the road. But as the man knelt by the hood of their car, Tom noticed something chilling, a large hunting knife strapped to the man's belt. When Tom asked if the mechanic had a phone, the man's smile turned cold. Before Tom could react, the man lunged, grabbing Tom's arm and dragging him toward the woods. Tom screamed for help. Sarah, hearing the commotion, ran back toward the car, but the stranger pushed Tom deeper into the dark forest. Luckily, Sarah managed to break into the car and call 911 using the emergency button. Police arrived within 20 minutes and found Tom, shaken but unharmed, tangled in brush near the roadside. The man, later identified as a local with a criminal record for assault, was arrested and charged with attempted kidnapping and assault. But for Tom and Sarah, the breakdown was far more than just a car problem. It was a brush with death. The Hitchhiker's Trap, Nevada Desert. It was early October 2017 when 24-year-old Julia Hartley set out on a solo drive across Nevada. She was heading from Las Vegas to Reno for a photography project, a route that cuts through hundreds of miles of empty desert and isolated towns. Her car, a well-worn Subaru Outback, had never given her trouble before. But halfway through the journey, somewhere near Tonopah, she heard a loud pop under the hood followed by a trail of steam. The engine was overheating. She pulled off onto a desolate stretch of highway. No cell service, no traffic for miles. After letting the car cool, Julia opened the hood but had no clue what she was looking at. She debated walking to the last gas station she saw nearly 15 miles back when a dusty old pickup truck approached and slowed. A man in his 50s stepped out, greasy clothes, gray beard, no smile. He asked if she needed help. Julia hesitated but ultimately agreed. What choice did she have? He said he had a mechanic friend who lived just a few minutes down the dirt road and offered to drive her there. Something in her gut screamed no. She thanked him but said she'd wait for another car. That's when everything changed. The man's expression shifted. He grew agitated, even angry. "I'm trying to help," he said sharply. "Ain't nobody else coming." Before she could respond, he grabbed her wrist. Julia kicked, screamed, and managed to break free, sprinting back toward her car. The man followed, but she slammed the car door and locked it just in time. He began pounding on the window, yelling obscenities, even trying to wrench the door handle. Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, he stopped. He looked around, spat on the hood, and stormed back to his truck. As he drove off, Julia stayed locked in her car, crying and shaking. An hour later, a couple on a road trip spotted her and stopped. They had a satellite phone and called for help. Julia later learned from authorities that the man matched the description of a local drifter suspected in 2 unsolved assaults in the region. He was never found. If she had gotten in that truck, it's likely no one would have seen her again. Her breakdown didn't just leave her stranded. It almost cost her everything. The horror of Interstate 5, California, 2018. Interstate 5 is one of the busiest highways on the West Coast, running from Mexico to Canada. But even the busiest roads can become death traps when you're broken down and vulnerable. On a cold October night in 2018, Melissa was driving alone southbound on I-5 near Redding, California. Suddenly, her car started overheating and then stalled completely. With no other vehicles immediately around, she managed to pull over to the shoulder. Melissa called roadside assistance, but they told her help would take at least an hour to arrive due to the remote location. Left with little choice, she locked her doors and sat in her car, trying to stay calm. That's when a white van pulled up behind her. A man got out and walked slowly toward her vehicle, shining a flashlight. Melissa didn't recognize the van, and the man's slow approach made her uneasy. When he knocked on the window, she ignored it. The man then started pounding on the door, demanding she get out. Terrified, Melissa locked the doors and called 911, whispering that she was being threatened. The dispatcher instructed her to stay on the line and remain inside. Minutes later, the man tried to open the door. Panicked, Melissa pressed the horn repeatedly, hoping someone else would notice. Unfortunately, the highway was mostly deserted, and the man eventually smashed the passenger side window and pulled Melissa out of the car. He dragged her toward the woods, but Melissa fought back fiercely. She scratched, screamed, and kicked, finally breaking free and running back to the car. The man fled before police arrived. The attacker's vehicle was later spotted on surveillance cameras nearby, leading to an investigation that uncovered a serial predator who had been assaulting women near roadside breakdowns for months. Melissa's ordeal is a chilling reminder. Being stranded can turn into a fight for survival in an instant. What these stories teach us. Each of these horrific breakdowns started as everyday frustrations, car trouble on an empty road. But vulnerability in isolated places can invite danger in ways few expect. These stories remind us to always prepare for the worst, keep your phone charged, have an emergency kit, and if possible, wait inside your locked vehicle rather than wandering off. Above all, trust your instincts. If someone approaches and you feel unsafe, don't hesitate to call 911 or use your car horn to attract attention. Sometimes, your best weapon is simply drawing eyes and ears to your situation. A car breaking down should be nothing more than a temporary delay, a frustrating blip in your plans. But in these 3 horrifying cases, it was the beginning of something far worse. These weren't just mechanical failures. They were moments of extreme vulnerability that were exploited by the worst kind of opportunists. Predators who waited for someone to be alone, stranded, and desperate. In Nevada, a woman almost vanished in the desert at the hands of a man who didn't take no for an answer. In Alabama, a couple nearly died because someone pretended to be the very person they trusted to save them. And in Ohio, a nurse just trying to get home from work found herself face to face with a man who used kindness as bait. These stories are reminders of a hard truth. Not everyone who stops to help is a good Samaritan. And sometimes, survival depends on trusting your gut, being prepared, and remembering that evil often wears a smile. So the next time your car stutters and dies on a dark road, be careful. You never know who's watching or what they want.